I'm Connie Keene from Wake Tech Community College in Raleigh, North Carolina. I am program director for our BAT program, which is a laugh because I don't have an HVAC background. I'm an electronics background. We got this NSF grant. Half of you probably remember Andy Smart. He is the reason, or he was the PI, and he was the motivating force behind it. I was supposed to just be support. Anyway, we'll go through. This is the title of the grant. The NSF put the title on. We did not choose this title, but because it's a mouthful. But we just finished the third year, and we have a one-year extension. And my idea here is just that this is a case study for anybody who's starting a new one or is trying to develop their program somewhat, what we've done with this grant. And for the guys that are much advanced from where we are, please help us figure out what we're supposed to be doing. So the whole idea here is, well, maybe, there we go. If you were going to take over this program, what would you do next? Because we are going to be writing a follow-on grant that would start next year, maybe. Okay. So here's just the timeline. I've already been talking through it. We got the grant in July of 2020. Bad timing, right? To start a grant. So we didn't have the building at that point in time. The building was completed in fall of 2020. So we had this big empty room. Spent the first year basically purchasing equipment and trying to figure out what we were going to do with all of the resources we had. By summer, so that was the first year, by the summer of 2021, we had the air handler in place. We had 16 DAV boxes lined up on both sides of the room, hanging from the top, that were connected to the air handler. We had 2 chillers, I believe, at that point. We had other various equipment that wasn't hooked up. That was really all that had been hooked up at that point. And in that summer, we kicked off courses. So I'll say it later somewhere, but the grant was supposed to pay for 4 courses. BAT 111 was supposed to already be there, but it needed substantial revision to make it work, right, with the rest of the program. So we revised that one. We started in the summer. We did the first run of BAT 212, which is the logic and programming course, and the first run of 221, which is the networking course, in the fall. And then Andy left. Okay, so I'm the programming and networking person. I did the fall. And then he was supposed to do the spring, and he left. And so we got Zach instead, Zach Taylor. But Zach overlaps with me a lot. He didn't really replace Andy, so we were flailing for this spring semester. But we went through, did the first run of those courses. In the summer of so this past year, summer 22 to this spring, we have all this equipment that wasn't hooked up yet because Andy left. And so the focus was really on hooking up the equipment, getting the whole system running. We hired another instructor who was HVAC, hired him, trained him. He sat through my courses because he didn't know programming and everything. And then he left. Okay, so that was this past year. We hadn't really focused on student recruitment because what was going on here? No in-person stuff, blah, blah, blah. So this last spring, really, I got kicked into gear on student recruitment because no good having a program if you don't have any students taking your program, right? So we've been hovering around 8 to 10 students in our classes, and it's just not enough to sustain it. So that was what I was doing this spring. And we did the second run of the new courses. I'll talk more about this later, but these 3 courses are pretty-ish stable. But the other 2 are still in major. Okay, so I'm going to show you our equipment. It's we're not very neat yet. We've got the panels like Robert's got over there with 2 people on each panel. We're working, it's not, this picture is a little bit old, but we're working to make it so that they're completely independent. One person can have power on and the other one have power off to do their wiring. So that's almost there. We have sensors on the wall. This is something Andy did that hasn't ever quite worked out. We're going to figure it out. But it's just, the wiring is kind of a mess still right now. This is a Siemens trainer that was bought. Some of you may remember John Clevenger. He was the first one from Wake Tech that came to Best Center. So he bought those and handed them to Andy, and Andy was like, what am I going to do with this? So we don't really use those. When we've used them, they've been sitting around long enough that they no longer always work, right? So that's kind of where we are. The disk tech controllers are up there for decoration. We haven't figured out how to use them yet. We don't have, well, we're up to here with figuring things out, right? I mean, but we've been told that that would be a good thing to figure out how to use, but we haven't done it yet.
Suggestion, Connie?
Yes.
While you're in the process of redoing your powers so that each half can be active separately, add an indicator light up above.
We are. Yes.
That way you know if the student's about to do something particularly
awful. Yes. Yeah. Zach is the one who's doing a lot of this, but he found the perfect little switches that he liked. He is very good, very thorough. Sometimes it makes a bottleneck in getting things done, but you know, yeah, he is getting there. Okay, so we are using the. Oh, I didn't mean to do that quite yet. We're using. This isn't a good picture. Maybe I should go back to the one previous. But we're using BAS22. Let's see if it's in there. It's not anything. So there's two controllers. We can swap it out. We've got, when Andy first started, y'all guys probably remember, he'd call Bob, and Bob would say, contemporary controls. And he'd call Robert, and Robert would say, easy IO. And it would be,
I gotta ask Robert. What do you think, Robert?
yeah. I know. And that was a good thing.
That's wild.
Yeah. So we ended up buying, I said, we can't decide with this, you know, so we bought a couple of both, right? Huh?
They're the same program.
Well, not exactly, right? Not exactly. And so we bought a couple of both, and then our money kind of kept flowing. We didn't travel. We had a good travel budget. We couldn't travel and spend it on travel, so we spent on more controllers. So we bought a set of contemporary controls and a set of easy IOs, and we can swap them out here. Okay, so so certain classes are more contemporary control and certain. Okay, the AV box, very similar to what you were looking at yesterday. We don't have it kitted out quite yet as much, so all we have is the actuator for the damper, the differential pressure sensor. This wire goes up to cable trays down to the panel. So this is hanging from the ceiling. And so we don't have, yes, sir?
Can you share the part number on that differential pressure?
When I can get to the point where I can read it, I will. I have it on my hard drive. But,
and you just put it up in the shared drive.
Yeah, I can do that. So we will be adding the reheat valve, temperature sensor. We may think of something else to add. Notice, though, the difference is the controller's not here, right? The controller is in Robert's VAV boxes. You have to go down. We run the cable down the wall and to the panel. Okay, so we have a north and a south campus, right? Both have pretty good technology programs. Our lab is on the south campus. Andy was like, you know, we have this great lab. We're not going to do anything but teach in this lab. But the HVAC program, we come through the HVAC program, right? The BAT starts with the first year in HVAC, and then they can choose BAT out of that. And so HVAC is taught South Campus and North Campus. BAT 111 is required of all the HVAC students. But since we weren't teaching on North Campus, those guys got to sub something else, which means our pool of recruited students was cut in half. So this year, we're doing this,
What city are you in?
huh?
What city?
Raleigh.
Raleigh.
So it's like a 20-mile commute between the two campuses. It's not, they don't want to just send them down there for our one course, right? You know, I mean, that was Andy's take. They can just come down here and take it, but it didn't work that way, right? So, so this year, this is my demo trainer. I mean, this is what I took to open houses and hauled around to all the high schools and all that kind of stuff. And Zach made it look better and cleaner and, you know, laid it out a little different. But he built 20 of these this May so that we can teach on North Campus. And this is basically enough to do that 111. We have to do it a little different than we did in our lab, but basically all the ideas are covered with this thermostat box, which is based off of your, huh?
Yeah, 16?
Something like that. I don't know. They went through and found your video, and they played your video for the students. You know, and they like play 5 minutes, and then okay, let's talk about that, right? So we use it.
You're famous, Bob.
Yeah, you are all over the country. So this is basically good for BAT 111. Actually, you can do a lot of the logic and programming course with this, right? You can't. We'll talk a little more about that later. You can't do everything. This is the contemporary controls that has the MSTP connection. So they took out one of the Ethernet ports and put in an MSTP, which to me is so much better. You know, it really makes it a lot more useful. You don't have to have the gateway anymore, right? The controller itself becomes the gateway. So one less box to buy and mount and handle, right? Is that okay?
You got the serial communication.
Yeah, so.
What do you think, Rob?
Contemporary controls also act as a gateway. Have you ever looked that up?
Well, I mean, it takes in MSTP, BACnet is MSTP, or BACnet IP.
We'll dump it IP.
Huh?
Yeah, and we'll dump it IP.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, exactly. So I think we got one of the first sets of this version, and we're waiting on our second set. I'm sure it's coming at some
I
point.
don't have any of those yet.
Well, see, I kept bugging them. I kept bugging them about it. It's like, I want that.
Does anybody need the background on EasyIO versus contemporary controls and why we're pushing contemporary controls?
I think it'd be good just to give it quick.
Sure.
Yeah, maybe. I wouldn't use the word pushing.
Push it right.
Ridiculous.
Recommending, that's the word.
Mm.
Suggesting.
And there's a lot of video of us talking about this in the past, but the synopsis of the story is, in the building controls industry, about 10, 12 years ago now, one of the big companies created a monster that they couldn't control. They called that monster Sedona. It is the only open source programming system in all of building automation systems. All the big companies tried to use it for something, decided they couldn't make any money on it, and abandoned the idea. So it was left to the medium and small size companies to develop and take it and run. And that's exactly what they did. EasyIO, Contemporary Controls, and a few others were really, really successful with it. The programming software is free. In theory, you can use Contemporary Controls programming tool to program anybody else's controls. Contemporary Controls did a better job at that. EasyIO did not do a great job at that, but that's the story.
They better serial though.
They did, yeah.
And Robert, you might also mention the licensing issues that come up with the majors.
So, and that's because the software is free and license free. it becomes really useful in the classroom. How many people are familiar with the challenges of AutoCAD or Autodesk or Photoshop on a yearly basis? What happens? Your license expires and you have to renew the license. Now, if you've got an instructor or lab techs that are really good and on top of it, the students never notice anything, okay? How many folks do you think are strong, really strong on IT that are teaching in our HVAC industry? Yeah. So we frequently get caught behind and we run out of license on, you know, the big box versions. So one day you walk into your lab and getting ready for a programming class and the software doesn't work. And it takes, you know, a couple of days usually, on a good day, to get the licensing updated to where you can get back to operational in the lab. So it's a challenge, it happens. There are several products that are really, really bad about it, but it's how it is. So when we saw the Sedona programming environment and the fact that it was a free environment that should have been interoperable between brands, we kind of really jumped on. That's why we strongly push the Sedona programming system. It just so happens that Contemporary Controls headquarters and production facility is in Bob's backyard. So they're an American-made company. Their tech support is phenomenal, and except for some chip shortages and things that have been affecting everybody, they're really good about getting orders out. And they've been really helpful to us as an organization. Everybody can buy directly, who's a Best Center member, can buy directly from Contemporary Controls at a significant discount. So that's a big reason why we push that. We used to have that same relationship with EasyIO. Their production facilities were distinctly further away, if you know what I mean. Really sharp group of guys. I got to know the leadership team really well there, which was part of why I was a big advocate for them. And I think their technology at the beginning was a little bit more advanced. But EasyIO a few years ago got bought out by one of the big box companies, Johnson Controls specifically. And so their accessibility, their support, and their future has all declined or become very questionable. So that's why, you know, you saw a lot of EasyIO controllers in my lab. That's because that's what everything was built around. Those controllers have been running for 6 years. I haven't bought any new EasyIO controllers in about 3 years. So that's why we strongly encourage the Sedona programming protocol, because it takes away that license, to use John's term, friction. I'm not saying there aren't other products out there that don't offer similar things, but we've had really good support from the teaching side from Contemporary Controls. So that's a big reason why we push that way. Cover it well enough, Pete?
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't need to get too far into the details, but like some of the big box companies, their back-end support is not real great. They may not send the A team out to work with you in your lab. They might send the B team or no team at all. There is a licensing fee issue that you have to renew. And then maybe your version of the software begins to age. And you're teaching an older version. So we just found that even though ALC, for example, has been a good partner of BEST for many years, Contemporary Controls is just much more accessible. The other thing is the big box companies don't understand a teaching environment. They just don't understand it. They are dealing with their commercial clients. They don't understand the notion of a teaching lab with 20 licenses.
And as important as anything, they don't want to. They don't care to understand what we have to willing to go that extra mile.
Even though they desperately need our students, which is the great irony of it. But Contemporary Controls, they were here last year. They're just a very good friend of our network.
And they're very patient with all your questions. I've asked lots of questions. The day we got these controllers in, and I was like, we're going to use them tomorrow, and they aren't working. Diego was on the phone with me for hours before, we got it all set up and working, and it was great. Yes.
So, Connie, how did you purchase those in North Carolina?
We had to do it. We had to go through all the hoops. What he's talking about is Contemporary Controls is not on our accepted or preferred ePro, whatever. Yeah, and you have to buy them directly from Contemporary Controls. And so you have to go jump through hoops to be able to do that. But we jumped through the hoops to do that.
Not my college, you don't jump through the hoops.
They won't do it.
So,
Yeah.
You had to do a sole source
Uh-huh.
purchasing. Yeah, and that's fairly straightforward. Usually.
Well, if your upper management will sign off, I think that's what he's saying, that they won't sign off on it.
Oh.
Yeah, which is too bad. But
If you need help with competitive bids for something, or I know Russ, there is a company,
not anymore.
not anymore? Oh, no, okay, never mind.
I emailed them and I said to reactivate it, and they did reactivate it.
I apologize.
I mean, I had $6,000 worth of controller orders waiting for them and it was already approved, but they didn't reactivate it, so.
Was the reactivation on your admin side or on the
Theirs.
supplier side?
The supplier side.
I apologize.
Yeah.
I'll go take the chair out from under that guy. I really will.
okay, so before my time evaporates too much. So when we started so Sedona, just since we were doing that, Sedona is like the open source version of Niagara. It's very similar. So Niagara is like the big world dominating force, right? That almost, Siemens doesn't use, there's companies that don't use it, but a lot of companies do use Niagara. And so our idea was also in teaching Sedona, it's free, it's easy, and it's a step into Niagara, right? When we started out, we were going to use Contemporary Controls had a hat that went on a Raspberry Pi. First summer, we were going to make the students buy it so they blow up their own equipment instead of ours. And
You got some skin.
well, exactly. It's like you got to be a little careful, and if you don't, I may give you a sub or I may not. It depends on how many's already been blown up. But the first year, Contemporary Controls couldn't get their hats to us, right? It was like halfway through the summer before Contemporary Controls got the hats to us. Next year, we were like, okay, we're going to buy the hats ahead of time for the students. They can just buy the Raspberry Pis. Well, what happened? Raspberry Pis are no longer available, except Jenny was saying in a $150 kit that has a lot of junk that you don't want. We aren't going to make the students buy that. So we just said, scrap it. We have a box. If anybody has Raspberry Pis, we have a box of the hats that are waiting for a Raspberry Pi, but we just went ahead and bought the full controller. We're not going to make the students buy it. If it ever comes back, we'll go back to that plan. Let me also say that part of the plan with the Raspberry Pi is I was going to teach Python off of the Raspberry Pi, right? And so I had to, I have, we'll get to this a little bit later, but while I'm thinking of it, I've got my other little show and tell here. So anyway, that is what we ended up with. And it does all the basic functions, and I totally forgot what I was saying. Added up to something like $500 without the controller. All right. For those of you who were here last year, our lab doesn't have oscilloscopes, but I'm in the electronics department, right? So I can be the person that says, yes, you can borrow our oscilloscopes. Get to know somebody in your electronics department and get them to, if you don't know already, get them to teach you how to use an oscilloscope and then teach your students. It's fun, and I think it's going to be something that's just done because you can buy a little module that plugs into your laptop that will do an oscilloscope. And it's just so much better to look at this rather than trying to do it with a multimeter. I mean, what can you see with a multimeter? Nothing, right? You can see if you got potential on the lines. But you can actually see, so this is a blow up of this little spot here, right? So this is MST, this is Modbus. This is Modbus. So it's got two lines, right, that are inverse from each other. And when you add them together, you get, well, this is not showing the add together very well, but he didn't do the math right. But anyway, you get double the signal, right? And so if you have an oscilloscope that has a math function on it, you can't have the most basic one. But if you have a math function, you can show how the controller's taking these signals and adding it in to enhance the signal, how the noise gets canceled and all of that. You can see it. Okay, so I did my spiel on that last year, but I just a little kick again. That it's really something they enjoy. They've heard about oscilloscopes, they've watched YouTube videos, but they haven't ever got to touch one, and it's like exciting.
Connie,
Yeah.
where do you put that in your curriculum? Is that in the introductory course or later on?
It is in the spring, so summer, fall, spring semester integration course. It's when we do Modbus. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Picture of the chiller. It was sitting out there for years, right? A couple of years. This just happened this last May. So we have electrical systems students who are doing most of the electrical conduit running and wiring and everything. Nobody knows piping. I don't know why we don't have anyone that knows piping, or if they do know it, when we go and look at the work, Zach was not happy with it. I'll say that softly. So anyway, Zach is learning how to do piping, and the guy that was the other instructor helped him. They spent the whole year figuring out how to do piping. That's their piping. Yeah, they did all of this past year, and if you're used to looking at HVAC systems, it's like, well, every HVAC system has that. That's a big deal for us to finally get hooked up. So we didn't have the chiller. These past 2 years of teaching the courses, all we had was the air handler with it was just blowing air, right? So we're looking forward to this coming year and adding that kind of concept into our courses. We have, I don't even know, what do you call this? I know it's reheat, but what kind of reheat? Hot water reheat. Hydronic. Okay, something like that, right? That's what we have for our reheat on our 16 VAV boxes. And so they're figuring out how to hook up the boiler now. That's what they're working on. The boiler's a little more complicated because it's supposed to go to both air handlers. We have a chiller for each air handler, but only one boiler. Okay. So we just, for some reason, this was a problem to get. We had it on the order for like a year and a half, and I think the company just had too much work to do and not enough people. So we finally got our spiral duct for the second air handler. That's our second air handler this past April. And are going to hook it up. All right, tilt your head sideways. I realized after I put it in here what a bad picture this was to have to look at. But this is trying to show you kind of what the whole lab looks like. We've got all the VAV boxes hanging from the ceiling. We've got 2 air handlers. There's panels on both walls that the VAV boxes go down to. The students, when we were doing this the first summer, we still had a ducting class, something like that. So students did all of this duct work, connecting from the spiral trunk down to the VAV boxes. We had students do that, which is good. It was a lot of work.
This was all designed by Andy then?
This was Andy. This was all Andy. Yep. he did a great job, you know. I just could kill him for leaving. That's the only problem. It's like, but
We go on a steamboat ride.
huh?
You had to go on a steamboat ride.
He took me on one once, yeah. But he has a steamboat. That's what he's talking about. But no, he just had to go earn more money, right? So Zach's favorite saying is, "We don't know what we don't know," and we don't. We have no idea what we don't know as far as dealing with this equipment and what we are missing that we should be doing, or, you know. Also, we don't know what we don't know means that we have to learn a lot, right? So we're working on learning everything, right? I had no idea about Sedona programming when we started this. I've done C programming, I've done Python programming. It's completely different. The closest thing Sedona maps to, nobody in here is an electronics person, but is like VHDL or FPGA programming, which is like hardware description language kind of programming. I mean, there's a C base underneath Sedona, a sequential base that's implementing all the blocks, right? So it's not the same because it does have to actually pass. I'm going in the weeds. But if you think of it as being hardware that you're connecting, it works a lot better for those who are sequential programmers, right? If you think of it as just being hardware connecting, it helps. Anyway, so we had to learn a lot.
Connie, is Python a good avenue into memory control programming, or where you're going to teach Python, you said?
I did. Well, okay, so let me just skip to that. So I wanted to do Raspberry Pi, right? First year when we couldn't get Raspberry Pi, I was like, well, I teach C already. Tinkercad has a great simulator. I'll just teach C, you know? But in the end, the BAS view, if you want to do any specialized code, the BAS view that we were looking at yesterday uses Python, right? And so in the end, okay, we're doing, you know, what's the use of teaching them C language when I have no application for it, right? So I switched this past year to Python so that we could actually do something with it that was related to the air handler. But I can't buy Raspberry Pis, right? So,
Hey, that shortage is almost over, they said.
really? Just when I rearrange everything to do something else. Right? So what I have instead is this little board. It's a Circuit Playground Express. It is the only thing that I could find, like under $50, that you could do Python on that was available. And I bought 30 of them on my own money just to have them. Because, you know, by the time it went through all the approval cycle and everything, I thought, well, they'll be gone, you know. It's worth the money to just be able to teach the course, right? So, so this is what I use to teach Python. And it has like little LEDs that light up, you know, it has a couple of push buttons on it, it has a photo sensor, it has a lot of stuff on this little board that's fun to play with. That's always my goal with my programming, is it should be fun, right? And this is fun. It's an immediate physical feedback of what you're doing. If your program works or not, you can see it. So, I think, so part of the point here is, and you experienced it yesterday, having the full up system seems expensive, has a big footprint, right? But the aha of being able to mess with it, it seems well worth the investment of what, even though we haven't got to play with all of it yet, it just, even what we have played with, it just seems worth the investment of doing. So, I mean, we go on the tour of the mechanical room and you can do videos and everything, but just having hands-on is much better. Okay. So our program plan, so half the grant was to buy equipment, right? Money to buy equipment. The other half was travel and training and, you know, paying for people. So our program is, the first year is HVAC. Here's our first BAT course. We are under the air conditioning, heating, and refrigeration technology degree. And then second year, we start in our only two, it's a BAT program, but majority is HVAC courses, right? Okay, what happened here?
Are the HVAC courses taught on South Campus or North Campus? Or both?
Both. Some reason I got kicked out on my computer. What happened?
Yeah, Peter, in North Carolina, there are several pathways underneath the HVAC program that you can go into, and you can choose what pathway you can go into. So, like Connie and myself, we chose the building automation system pathway in our associate's degree to do that way. They got, what's the other one? Refrigeration pathway, commercial refrigeration pathway. And there's one more pathway that the instructors at the colleges in North Carolina can choose whichever pathway they want to go.
So we have all three at our college. So we have 150 HVAC students. 8 choose BAT right now. So I'm trying to change that. But we have a huge HVAC program that for all three tracks.
To draw on.
Huh?
To draw on.
To draw on, right. We also, we have a facilities maintenance degree, or I think that's what they call it.
Yeah.
That takes 3 of our BAT courses. It's just started up in the past year or two at Wake Tech. And so we have 3 of those in our class. We are planning to have it be an electrical systems track. We have a good electrical systems department, but they had like they want them to have at least 2 tracks, and they had a very non-desirable second track. So we're going to be the second track in the electrical systems.
You have a course called The Nature of America?
Yeah. Part of the Mega Center.
It's not I didn't set this up, It's like what we just fit in our stuff wherever they tell us to, right? Is that going to work? Yeah.
It all starts in Chicago.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I mean, it is North Carolina.
Hmm. It's Raleigh, though,
It's 70 credit hours, so
It's a lot.
how does that compare with the HVAC track?
Okay.
I mean,
Um,
you don't know
Are you guys getting pushback from the state on hours? There's a lot of states pushing at 60, trying to be at 60. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it gets argued back and forth and back and forth, but this is where we land.
The architects are the worst. Too many hours.
Yeah, but we're revamping our electronics program also, and it's also up in this realm. I mean, it's just you got to have time to teach them something. So
Automation, you gotta couple them together.
yeah.
How does that layout compare with yours, Russ? Similar?
Yeah, about 70 hours. 36 hours is actually our diploma that we're in.
Yeah.
So, and then we add we didn't have to teach all the general education stuff, it'd be a whole lot better for us.
So we finally got a website. That was part of my recruiting hardship, maybe, is we were buried under HVAC, right? Who was ever going to read down to the 3rd page of the program planning guide? When I did a couple of open houses with our division recruitment team, and there was nothing about building automation. I took my little trainer board out there. It's like building automation, and people came by and politely listened and then went on their way. And there was nothing, there was just not any real drive for it, right? So this past well, past fall, I started going to all the HVAC classes to do the spiel, right? Because supposedly it was getting done, but yeah, you got to do it yourself. And then I started this spring going to high schools with my board and my hour presentation and spending a day doing all the classes at the high school. It's a lot of time, and I don't know if it's going to pay off or not. But I was talking to Ted last night about what he's doing. And like I can do, the workshop idea is like to, I don't know, go to Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and I don't know, what else, you know.
I've done Boy Scout, Girl Scouts yet, but that's coming probably.
Yeah, well, I got to figure out something to do. Yes, sir.
A good idea what I do to promote automation is I actually bring contractors to talk to the students because it shows them that there's companies out there willing to hire.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I do that too, but who do you get them to talk to? I bring them to the BAT 111 class. That's what I did. Siemens was beautiful about doing that. They spent hours doing the same talk to all our different BAT 111. And the response was, it's too late. I've already started down this other path. So it's like finding the way to get to the people at the right time was part of what the...
Counselors with psychology degrees ruling the world one student at a time.
So our program, our CTE actually has their own counselors specifically for our CTE, so that helped us a lot.
But I would say that building automation would not get counseled in at our current environment. It would be HVAC or the AHR program, and building automation would be the stepchild. Yeah.
It seems like you've got a great captive audience with your 150 students already in the field.
Well, that's what I, so,
Convince them to learn programming.
yeah, so that's why I started last fall going to the very first HVAC course and giving the spiel.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I say, but I've got to do it. It's like, you know,
Is the red hair guy came out to visit us?
the
from
red.
HVAC? Yeah, he's got a pretty solid apprenticeship program thing that runs
Mhm.
through there.
Yeah.
There's somebody, I just remember, red hair, he stopped out like 6 years ago, came out.
I don't know.
He's in your HVAC club.
You know how
I
many
knew Andy
people,
really well.
you know how many people have left the HVAC department in the past?
He had red hair, so he was college.
Yeah, I mean,
Never forget.
oh, I know who you're talking about, and he is gone.
Uh,
Yeah, I forgot what his name is, but yeah,
Sure,
he
sure.
has been gone. He left before Andy did, actually. Yes.
Connie, what I started doing 2 semesters ago, since last year's meeting, I think the refrigeration 1 students and people just coming in to the program, I take them to the automation lab,
Mm-hmm.
and we just talk about
Yeah.
what automation is, and then I pull up the best website.
Yeah.
And I show them the website, job opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
and then they start getting excited, and
And
that seems to help push more people in.
yeah, I think that's what I started doing last fall myself. That's, you know, that's the light went on. Nobody's going to do this if I don't do it myself.
Because they don't know about it until later on.
Yeah, it doesn't help. Yeah. Yes, sir.
The other thought is to, when you go into classrooms, look for the older students, because you sell the story of, hey, that body ain't gonna hold out all these years, all that heavy stuff.
There you go.
Okay.
Age discrimination.
Yeah. Exactly. I got in trouble for doing that.
Oh, really?
I did. I got in trouble for doing that. I got in trouble for saying it's not heavy lifting, you know. Yeah, I got,
I try to be careful about how I do it too, but.
yeah.
You keep saying more
I-
like career planning,
Huh?
future planning.
What?
Tell them,
What?
future planning.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, you know, I don't know. I'm not very politically correct in how I say it a lot of times.
So when you get these $1 million budgets, you don't personally get the $1 million budgets, but all these schools are getting checks from the state, real estate taxes and everything else, and there's millions of dollars going to these marketing departments. It's supposed to be informing the community correctly. Do you ever go to the board meetings or show up at a board meeting and knock down the marketing department and teach them a little bit of respect?
You want to come visit my school and do that for me? I'm not that kind of person. I mean, I'm not politically. I'm not the kind that's going to.
Clark is.
Yeah, yeah, you
Bob
know.
goes to play college, right. He goes, and they all come to him.
Yeah,
He
I'm
doesn't
not.
go
I'm not the
seek them out.
person that's going to do that.
Come to my college.
Anyway, but we do put on. So, and I also can't do too much about the salary. That was another thing I got in trouble for. Yeah,
Why?
because I'm downgrading the other programs, the other two tracks. Even though they have good salaries too, but still.
So when it comes to salary, so there's a lot of salary data shit out there from like career coach and our horticulture department. These people are making 75 grand a year leaving right out of the gate. So horticulture, they were marketing at $26,000. They didn't even care, they were just marketing it. The marketing department and all the irresponsible people in the community was putting $26,000 on it. You know what a psychology person that has a degree makes? You know what their website said? $87,000. And then they had another one for sociology. Put that on a camera. Somebody in the government needs to get slapped because sociology, they said $91,000 a year. There's none of those people with a 2-year degree that make that money. Not one, but it's marketed. And when parents see it, when kids see it, it's all a damn irresponsible lie. So pay attention to the salaries that all those space balls that work at the government organization are just promoting out there from data sources like Career Coach. Pay attention to that shit.
Okay,
Thank you.
Well.
Point made.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. You've got 150 students, and obviously, the other tracks don't want you to take too many of their students out of their tracks. So
Right.
you do have to tread lightly,
right.
but still,
Oh, I know. I'm learning. I'm just kind of blowing off steam with you guys. Yes.
Just tell them to eat your shorts.
Can you use your Python skills and every time they click on the other, it drops it right to your.
That programming knowledge.
I mean, that's heavy lifting, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so this is Michael Ladd. We just made a video like this spring with him as the star instructor. He left, right? The video before that,
Was the other guy who left?
the video before that, there's Andy Smart.
Andy.
Yeah, he was the voiceover and everything. We're not making any more videos. Yes, sir.
Good question. Did they leave to the industry, work in the industry or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Like that, like
I like Andy too. And truly Andy is he's still very involved in the program. Huh? He's not an adjunct. No, he's not an adjunct, but he and Zach are friends. So it's like, what did you mean by doing this? And Andy will say, oh, this, here's a drawing. You know, so he has been helpful.
Zach is an electrician, right?
He came from the electrical systems. He took 1 year of HVAC. He owns apartments and he wanted to not have to hire people. He wanted to learn how to do it himself, right? So he has 1 year of HVAC. His actual money-making career was with Microsoft. So that's why I say we overlap a lot. Networking and programming are both strengths for us, strengths for both of us. But he does have, and he has Andy as a friend, and he has all the tools. And, so he's doing well. We do link to the Best Center for salaries. So y'all got to keep that up to date for us, because that's my only thing that I point to for that. Let me go back to the real presentation here. I was going to be so smooth about all my links, and guess what? It doesn't work unless I exit. So there you go. Here we are. That was what we were doing. We were doing programs, right? Program.
Yeah, done.
So I'm probably just going to talk through this instead of trying to link to it.
that'd be kind of cool. Best did interviews and kept them out of the way from success stories of students all over the country. That would be really cool. And then house videos. I could always link to that. You can kick your marketing team towards that too.
You had a nice video at the end of your email that I watched. It's like, can I borrow your video?
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
so Bob, and let me confirm what you just said with Connie here. So if we had a video of a successful
Videos.
videos
Yeah.
of students who have migrated into industry,
Yes.
just talking
Yeah,
about.
and if your
their story.
instructors leave, you don't have to have, right? Videos stay up to date and current because the instructors aren't rotating in and out.
Yeah.
The thing of it is, There you go. Rachel Power with NSF is doing exactly that. Putting together videos of alumni and stories about their career paths and things. And actually, they wanted me to do that this summer, and I said, I just can't do it this summer. In the fall, yeah.
Well, we could do some Zoom videos if we knew the names of the people.
We got a Kim. What are you talking about?
Well,
Go to
right,
work.
Kim can coordinate it, she can put them together.
Yeah.
And what I need is the name of I'll have to send an email out to you.
Yeah, people can
Get
volunteer
names
their
of your
students' personal information. I got social
Yeah.
security numbers.
Just make the contact, and
Yeah.
then we can do the video.
That'd be good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Okay, so like I said, I'm not going to try and link to all my syllabi and everything, and I'm running out of time anyway. It's dry and boring. But this is a link from our main website. Let me see. Let me go up and show the top of it. So part of the grant is that we provide what we've developed, right, to everybody, whoever wants it. We're not like Scott. Was it Scott? Has spent 8 years teaching the same thing and now he's publishing it. It's like, these are rough, these are what I did the Sunday before I taught on Monday kind of labs, right? But
Sometimes those are the best.
yeah. So, and we just got the website up. I said, I have to have it by June 5th. Okay, we'll do it. So we just got it up. And I've got a few sample labs in here. I put what the goal is. We're going to have BAT 111 and 212, all we've got up by the end of the summer. So that's the intro and the programming. We'll have the networking up by the end of the fall. And then we'll see what we do with the other 2 classes, if it's worth putting up or not. Okay, well, I'm not going to put garbage up. It's going to be something that's at least a reasonable example of what to do. So let me just kind of hit the highlights of the courses here. I've got the this is the common library or something descriptions from North Carolina are down here of what the courses are. So the BAT 111, we basically do the basic stuff, build an Ethernet cable, do the peer-to-peer connection. We do the thermostat lab. We give them a picture of a Sedona program and have them enter it. We do the tour of the mechanical room and have the as-built plans and have them read through that. Just kind of here's a taste of everything, right? And then in the programming class, we did the job task analysis with all the industry people, and I've asked different, Siemens and Schneider, you're asking the Python why I was teaching Python. It's like, I never got a good answer of what I should teach, so that's fine. But I think it is good to teach them something. Once you've learned one, it's much easier to learn another, right? Even if Python's not something you ever use, if you have to use C. I think, anybody know what Siemens line code looks like?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
You teach it. What does it look like? Does it look like C?
Yeah.
That's what I heard, that it looked like C. Yeah, so I haven't actually seen it, but yeah. So I have like maybe 2 more Python lab lessons that are based off of this, right? So if anybody wants to try it with that, those are there. This is a question. I find it very irritating that there's PID, lots of PID, that nobody thinks. Huh?
So one of my favorite things on a PID loop, you got to kind of play with it a little bit to get the logic right so you can experience it. But I just let it run in the lab, and it's a thermistor drilled into a piece of PVC with an incandescent light bulb in the bottom.
Oh.
I think we did something like, did I have that one when you guys were in Chicago? I thought we built it for there, and you watch it switch on and off when you play with the derivative. And then you start watching it on and off, and you can play with it and watch how the PID loop reacts to the temperature trying to come in, where it starts to switch the light on and flicker it, and it maintains that load. It's really cool. That's it. From John Kepke out of Junior College, he did it with the PLC. Changed my whole perspective on that stuff. But an incandescent light bulb in the base, and you just get like a toilet flange, flip it upside down, and then mount a light bulb under it. And then it can stand up, a 3-inch piece of PVC, and you can drill different holes at different levels and drop your 10K type 2 thermistors in it. It works out really well to teach PID loops. And it's simple, cost less. You can steal all the shit from the plumbing department.
I will. Yeah.
No, I'm not.
So,
It's ugly. It's just a PVC pipe.
Yeah, it's just a piece of PVC pipe with thermostat. We'll send you guys a picture, but, and then I'll just let it rip all, like, for the next, the whole semester is different ways and set it once in a while and mess with their heads.
okay,
You'll see it switching the plastic.
that sounds like a good
It'll just be
idea.
sitting there. Attention, boy.
Yeah. So you do teach, like how to tune and how to,
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
a PID, first you need to understand what the difference between proportional and derivative is.
mm-hmm.
So, he actually, John Kepke was badass, because everybody uses the word algorithm, this and that shit, you know, power words. But he used to do the actual calculation through the math functions of the Slick 500 series PLCs.
Mm-hmm.
It was really cool. He's new rocket. He was like, you know, rockets and missiles, missile defense systems. What he worked on.
So that's kind of what I do, only I'm doing it with Sedona and contemporary
Yeah.
controls.
Oh, that's you do it all that. So we do that.
Hmm?
Yeah, a little
That's what we're
PVC
using.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
What's up? But it's a real good way to visualize what's happening in a PID.
yeah. Well, so this lab here, there's an
I'd like to put them in a car with cruise control, but
yeah, no. There's a simulator. So this lab gives you links and everything to a free downloadable simulator, which is where we start. And learn what proportional is, what, you get to play with all of the different pieces and see the effect it has in a graph, basically, not in a real system.
the most important lesson you got to have on there though is the clip from Deliverance.
Yeah. Okay.
Well said, well said.
Keep your mind on
Um,
there.
So I do like 3 weeks of the PID there, and then one of the problems we have is prereqs. I would really like these two to be prereqs for these two, and I've been denied. And so I get students coming in here that didn't have
Oh boy.
this,
So
and so I teach PID in both of them, and the students that had it already say, good, thank you, because they didn't get it the first time.
denies you?
Huh?
Your dean denies you?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
You can't just slap them down and tell them faculty in charge of curriculum?
Everybody is you.
That's terrible.
Who did that with the prereq?
Actually, it's the head of the HVAC, the AHR program. It's the one who's
So
really,
they're playing games, I got you.
yeah,
Oh, the department chair.
yeah.
Yeah, you can we can put local prereqs on it if we want to, but then the state's got some,
Sure. It's got
state's got some of the prereqs, but if we want to put a local prereq.
So your
it has
house
to go
under
to,
each.
it has to go to a curriculum committee.
Well, then the
Probably.
your faculty are putting stops on you. I got you.
Yeah.
That's
Well, and they're like, when you get enough students that you can teach everything spring and fall, then you can do what you want to. So I'm going to build up the students, and then I'll be my own program. Anyway, so I teach PID and that again, and they liked it. So BACnet MSTP lab is the sample one we have under there right now. We'll fill it out, right? If you're interested in seeing what another version of the labs are, this is, even if you're already teaching, right? You can see what we came up with and see if there's anything useful.
Yeah.
It is meant to be open OER. All right. Let's see if there was anything else I wanted to say for that. So I'm teaching Python. That's one unusual kind of thing, maybe. In our networking class, we're doing Wireshark. Yeah? Okay, so that was something the first time through we didn't do it. Second year we got it in there, and it's great. So if you're doing networking, try and do Wireshark is something that lets you see what the network traffic is. It's a free download. Again, we are big on free downloads, and it's a free download. There's videos on how to use it. In fact, it probably is linked, and well, it will be linked when we get that lab posted. But it is really very useful and very fun for the students to be able to see how the traffic goes over the network. Yes, sir.
If you are tied to your college's network for your building controls network, do not tell IT you're running Wireshark. They will get so excited that it is amazing.
Yeah, we had to promise that we were only local. We don't always keep the promise, but you know.
I use it in mine, but I work for my IT, and I got my own little cell in my classroom,
Mm-hmm.
but it still goes through the server up in IT, but we're on our own little device, so
If you either work really closely with IT to let them know so that you can do it in a safe manner, or don't tell them at all.
yeah.
There you go.
There is no in between, or you will
Right,
learn that.
you go to the liberal arts areas and you plug in one port and then plug the other side into the other port.
Okay. So, like I said, Zach came from Microsoft. I believe very much in documenting all the work we do, so that when I'm going to leave one of these days, right? You know, everybody leaves, so that it gets handed on to the next person. I'm not really big on appearance sometimes, you know, it's like if it works, it's good. Zach is the author of the template, right? He's like, you've got to use all the Microsoft stuff so that you can do the blah, blah, blah. Okay, so he's the one that was the credit for it. And this is what we use for our labs. Robert asked me if I wanted to share it, and we did, no problem on that. But that's one thing, y'all, you know, I don't know what y'all don't know either. I was totally confused by the Creative Commons license. It's like Creative Commons licensing.
Oh,
Yeah, and it, you know, it took me an unreasonable amount of time to figure out that it's really just you putting it on there. There's no hoops to jump through or anything. It's just you put that little line on there, and I don't know that it.
Logo.
Little logo, and I don't know if it really does anything. I mean, at least you could go scream at somebody if they took your stuff wholesale and put it in the book and sold it, right? But I don't know how much it actually does, but at least it's kind of the honor system. So it's worth at least sticking that line on there. And it's a little copyright kind of symbol that goes with it, right? And there's different layers of Creative Commons. Basically, we say share and share alike, right? If you're going to make modifications, you have to make it available to share with other people, right? So just benefit. I'm going to argue this because our HVAC department, our electronics department has this whole library. And when an adjunct comes in, it's like, here you go. Here's all your labs. Here's HVAC. Our HVAC department is not like that. It's like, oh, here's the equipment. Go figure it out. What do you want to do? You know, so it really helps to have things documented so that you can hand it to the next person. I see a lot of heads shaking. I'm probably preaching to the choir here.
amen.
Yeah. So the other thing that documenting it helped. So we had electrical systems, electronics, engineering, technology, and HVAC all trying to work together, and we're trying to bring all of that together because I don't know HVAC, you know, and the HVAC guy didn't know programming, so we're trying to make it all play together. So it gives you something to all talk to and say, well, why did you put that in here? Or, oh, I said that wrong. You can't really do that with an HVAC system. Okay, I'll take it out. You know, so it helps to do that kind of stuff if you have it written down. It also helps when you think, oh, we had a really good course last year. And you go back and you look at what you actually wrote down, and it's like, well, maybe that's, you know, part of it was the person talking that made it a good course, right? Your actual materials and what the student had to take home was not so great. As far as books, this is something, I'm running a little over. as far as books, we use ATP building controls for the BA, the intro course. After that, we don't really have anything. Anybody want to suggest something?
Throw all those books in the trash. The Chipkin site's really great.
Yes, Chipkin site is excellent. Contemporary, huh?
Board.
Yeah. And that's what we're doing is like I put in the webpage links to Chipkin to Contemporary Controls has a networking of buildings that it's like 140 pages and it's really good.
Well, can you repeat shipping control?
Can you write that on the board?
Chipkin,
Please. Is it open resources they have?
it is a company, but they have it available on their website, basically. Say again? Okay. Yeah. And there was that little book you talked about. I forget what it's called. For Modbus.
Oh, yeah.
It was pretty good. But I'm not going to do it for the students.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's what we're doing. It just makes it a little harder. I mean, there's not like homework questions. Huh?
There's no material anywhere. And then their, the documents to their books, having them just read through blocks and how it actually operates is a great exercise too, just for, you're looking for resources for reading. I think that's more important than anything.
Yeah.
Is their instruction manuals of how everything operates. Assign like even contemporary assignments based on how blocks are operating and what's happening.
Yeah, we do the manual, the Sedona
Use their
manual.
manuals. It's-
Yeah, so that's what we're using for our. It just I really like to have a textbook to say go home and huh? Yeah, so there isn't one. So that's what we're doing too is just referencing all the manuals and whatever we can find. So in the labs, we have a background section. There's usually links to web pages and such that are relevant to whatever the lab is, right? I don't know why I was talking about that. Oh, that we don't have a book for anything. So that was okay. Recruiting students. That's part of our grant. General recruiting is general, and we didn't get mentioned. I already said this. And so what I've started doing is going to the HVAC classes, going to the high school CTE classes, something, whatever that is. I forget what that is. Something technical education.
Yeah.
I forget what the C is. Huh?
Career.
Career and technical education. Thank you. And I mean, it's exhausting and it takes so much time. And even just arranging with the classes to get to go and visit them is like, so if anybody has any better suggestions, let me know on that. But that's what I think is going to be and we already talked. I mean, we did talk some, but yeah.
How long is your program been around?
So we've as a program, this is the end of the second year.
How long has your HVAC program been around?
Oh, huge. Yeah.
How long has it been around?
Oh, I don't have any idea.
My program's been around at least since the 1970s.
Yeah. I mean,
So
probably.
we've established a reputation. And
Yeah.
I hear this from a lot of different people that they have recruitment issues.
Yeah.
But my kind of thoughts with it, because I was like pounding my head, how do I get more students? How do I get more students? And it's all about that reputation. You have to have a good program. You have to keep the integrity of that program.
Yeah.
And, like coming to these events, helps you, it make you, keep the integrity of that program, because those people that graduate out of those programs and get jobs and careers, they're the ones that are passing that information down to this younger generation, saying, this is where I went. This is where I went.
Yeah.
That's how I get, I would say 80% of my students into my program, my HVAC program, is that, they tell me, hey, so-and-so told me, this, they graduated from this program and, go there and they'll do good. So
We just have to survive as a program long enough to build that up.
it's
So,
that longevity.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
You gotta get to that point though.
yeah,
Do you have,
It takes time.
do you have a certificate in building automation?
I think they're supposed to be, but I don't think we've had anybody try and do it.
Yeah, well, what I was suggesting, since you're having so much problems with your HVAC people, wanting them to finish that pathway, let them go that pathway and then say,
Come back and do
after you
it.
finish that, come and do this certificate.
I have said that to people. And I'm probably exaggerating. I mean, we do get support from our HVAC. It's just, when they are so much
Yeah.
and we're so little, it
Yeah.
just doesn't,
They just, yeah.
Everybody's fighting for that same pool.
yeah, yes.
Yeah, the way ours work is, for them to advance into the automation, part of the commercial degree, they need to take the beginning class of the automation.
Yeah, our HVAC, all our HVAC students take that first intro class.
Yeah.
But by the time they get there, they've kind of already, put the path in.
Her problem is their HVAC program has got a pathway in heating, air conditioning, refrigeration, and solar thermal systems, and also the building automation systems. So they got so many pathways that students can go to that they're trying to build a pathway through the building automation where I'm in the same state and only got one pathway. They don't have a choice. They got to go.
So, and it's, I mean, I know all this, I know kind of what you're saying, right? It's just I'm looking for a new idea that's easier. That's,
And
Yeah.
the other thing, we're gonna hear from Ted a little bit later. but
Yeah.
You've got that wonderful internal market. I mean, that's your first choice, really,
Mhm.
is to have some of those HVAC students
Mhm.
that maybe are a little more IT oriented,
Mhm.
because it's BAS, you not only have all the HVAC, but then you've got the IT side as well.
Yeah, and I go in with my laptop and I have, my little screwdriver and my multimeter and I say, this is all you have to carry when you're a BAP
But
person,
the other thing is, Ted is gonna talk about community outreach.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about that.
So that's his ATE project, and
Mhm.
we're really hoping for big things.
And that's what I think if I'm going to add something, that's where I'm going to add it. But I don't know if I'm going to have time to add it.
What about like the CIS or CIT programs at your college? Computers.
Oh,
They probably go crazy, right?
yeah, I'm not even going to touch that. It's like,
They're so spoiled and fun.
yeah, that's
Be our
not,
boss tomorrow, don't worry.
Actually, that is a good idea, because they already have the programming side or the IT side.
yeah.
Now they just need
But they're
to-
not getting jobs, that's the problem now, all those things.
Oh, no, there's
The IT, all that IT stuff, and those IT departments, and the systems programming and all that stuff, when the students, I'm starting to just hear it through the grapevines of that demand it's not there, and they traded all, obviously, any technical education labs for computer labs. Artificial.
Oh, well, we have a good technical, our skilled trades labs are good. I'm not
Yeah.
complaining about any of that, but I don't want to step on toes.
I'm in high school systems.
Oh, in the high school, I did go talk to, and I think we actually pulled one in. Yes, high school, I would do that.
Because I think a lot of them too, they know that they like computers, or that's their goal because they like video games.
Yeah,
And they don't realize that you can do that in trades,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
How do you apply?
yeah. So no, that's true, and I was doing that. Anybody in high school that will invite me in, I'm going. Okay, we had in our grant a thing of, we're going to do underrepresented minorities and women, and we haven't had a single woman in BAP. I mean, there's been a couple in the HVAC in general, not a single one. HVAC is a hurdle to begin with, right? I mean, it's an unfriendly environment for a woman. You got to just admit that, right? It is, in general. No, you don't admit that?
I mean, the welding program is got 6 or 7 women in it.
Ours does
And-
too.
And it's just it's probably dirtier or nastier than what we're doing. I just can't understand why we can't get the women to come over to HVAC department and stuff.
We're running a test starting in the fall, and we got a short-term certificate, so you can change. So we just took our core classes in, 12 hours, so it qualifies for financial aid,
Uh-huh.
right? And gets WorkNet funding, but key is set it up like interior design. I was like, why the hell are you running classes at 8 o'clock in the morning, Jane, or 10 o'clock instead of 8? She was like, daycare.
Yeah.
So we shifted a full schedule from 10 to 2
Ah,
to accommodate daycare stuff, and
Uh-huh.
then you market it to your workforce departments
okay.
at the county level. So on the unemployment offices, workforce, whatever you want to call it.
Uh-huh.
And when people are retooling, when you have enough to where it's, especially if you have a certificate at the state, then that approves any funding through an unemployment office
Uh-huh.
for somebody retooling
Uh-huh.
and develop that relationship, because you probably got useless people at the college now making the connection that way. Spaceballs. Here we are again.
Or they just haven't thought of it, you know?
Well, no, they have dedicated people that are supposed to interface with that.
Connie,
Okay,
Millions. of
we're on
us.
tape, okay? Yes, sir.
Nationally, the participation rate of women in HVAC is like 1% or something.
Oh, I know.
1%.
Yeah.
So it's a huge challenge.
Mm-hmm.
But for BAS, you don't have to carry the compressor.
Oh, I know.
Carries the compressor.
That's one of the things I got in trouble for, though, saying, women, you don't have to do the heavy, and that was,
Who told
But-
you you couldn't say that?
Yeah, you can't. No. That's it. Between you and Ted, I don't know what's worse. I'm filing an HR complaint.
okay, anyway, the point is, that's a good idea. What you said, that sounds like a good idea. Yeah.
I'll let you know how it works.
Two strategies that I've seen work for some other AT projects. One is I see it going to the high schools, but if there's STEM clubs at the high schools or even a women in STEM club,
Mhm.
and then you could go and then bring a guest speaker with you to sort of entice them. And then secondly, making sure that your print and digital marketing materials feature women
Yeah.
prominently. So if there's some representation.
I know, but that's so, I have a problem doing that when I don't actually have a woman that's in the program that I can photograph. You know, I mean, it's like, it feels a little bit like a lie, right? But, yes,
I know it's time consuming, but it's just like, because it's more the culture in the high school, like when the students talk to a counselor, they see a woman, they always say like, oh, go to nursing instead,
Yep.
right? Well, what I always, I've talked to some of the high school counselors at a time, why don't you just open up the whole book and tell them, this is what you can take if you go to RCC, right?
oh, yeah.
So that's the thing, the counselor, when they see a woman, they see a guy, oh, you could do welding, oh, you could do, right? But if it's a woman, oh, nursing.
Yeah.
Right? That's what they're gonna push them to.
And I don't really want to steal anybody from nursing because, we
Well,
need
to be
nurses.
fair, right, we're trying to be fair with everyone, that's why
It's
I
not
say,
stealing,
when
it's
they-
showing the opportunity.
yeah, when they talk to the students, just open the whole book,
That's-
this is all the opportunities at this school.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
And that's the problem. Like,
They always shove them towards early childhood education.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
I think for.
Or you want a degree
I
psychology.
think your part is much higher.
Folks, let keep talking.
So, I hear all people's ideas about like doing improvement, and I think that's all great, because if you don't expose people to it, they would never hear from it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get those students, it's like, I wouldn't be here, if you didn't come to that high school, or you didn't come to that grade school in order to tell them about this career field. And, you don't get it all the time, but, it's just like those students that come back to you once in a while and say, hey, I wouldn't be in this career if it wasn't, for your program.
Mhm.
So I think, everybody's trying to do the best that they can as far as recruitment.
Yes.
What if we did like marketing that maybe you don't have as female, but maybe there is another one working in the industry that's keeping, so it's not like you're lying.
Yeah.
A stock
Yeah.
image, but
I-
like
and
somebody.
so I
an
talked-
actual female.
I mean, I have met women working in BAS. They usually are women who were the office help and saw these guys coming in making lots of money, and they were not as smart as them. So they work their way into it, right? That's the usual path that I found of women in this. So it's kind of, yes.
This might be more for Peter. We are fortunate enough to have a recent graduate from our program. She graduated with an AS. She has a bachelor's in teaching. And she went to work for the state of California as a stationary engineer, making huge amounts of money. And she is now an adjunct at our college. We actually have two former recent grads that are adjuncts at our college now. You might want to, you mentioned putting a campaign or a video together for recruitment. You might want to touch bases with Richard and talk to him about seeing if Carissa would be willing. I know she is, because she has done one for our marketing campaign for our college.
Yeah.
So,
Something like that.
for the best center. So it would be a promotion for the best center and everybody involved. Seeing somebody that was a success through an HVAC program, working for a state entity as a stationary engineer, and also teaching at her alma mater.
That sounds great.
So I like your idea, and what Russ was saying, that would be great. What Russ was saying about welding is true. I think what happens with welding is there's this artistic element, you know, when we have our open house, they have this eagle made out of, or something, you know. I think that's part of the draw on that. So, I don't know, we'll work on this, right? This is my little pet thing. I am basically applied math person, right? I mean, you know, electrical engineering and programming and blah, blah, blah. When I started with Andy, he's like, climb up on the ladder and turn a screwdriver. You know, I do projects at home, but I don't do it with a man looking over my shoulder. And I think that is one of the things that would be a good way to help women get into skilled trades, is to have something where they are learning and getting comfortable using tools. It wouldn't just be women. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of guys that don't have any prior experience, you know, that don't grow up somewhere with someone teaching them how to use tools. But that's my personal, but I just haven't figured out how to make it happen yet. But I think that would be useful.
So one of the things we're doing in our airport, we're bringing 20 counselors, male and female, and they do like a 3-day boot camp, enrollment, and they go through each program, and we're gonna have a little lab where we're gonna do like bracing and flaring, stuff like that, something small, so they can see, and like Pierre was saying that, yeah, you go, the counselors go and they don't talk about our HVAC or all the stuff, so now we're letting the counselors know, okay, now there's an interest in that, so.
Yeah.
We're doing it this way to get the counselor's mindset.
That's a good idea too. Yeah, I like that. So
And they
anyway.
get a stipend, so they get, I don't know where they got the funds, so they get like a $200-300 stipend, and
That's
they
nice.
get a room and board. I mean, even though it's local, they stay there at, you know, at a hotel, and then they bus them in, and like for like 2-3 days, and they get like $300 for each of the.
Yes. Yes.
Suggestion on the tool usage idea,
Uh-huh.
get into, do like a summer camp with, like junior high AV students.
Mm-hmm.
And who, I'm sure, just a quick show of hands, who's familiar with Unistrut?
Now.
It's a rector set. So come up with just a structure that they have to build as a team.
Uh-huh.
It gives them a handful of tools that they've got to get used to using. It shows them that there's this connection, it's fun. Build a jungle gym.
Yeah.
with it. And then they get to play on it after they're done, that sort of thing. You know, just something that's.
That might be an insurance problem.
But something along those lines.
Yeah.
It's something that is built together, shows teamwork, gives tools, and is fun and memorable.
Yes, that's a good idea. I like that one.
Yeah.
I'm working on an NSF grant AT proposal to get increased women, and we're gonna do like a makerspace type thing, so you can bring creativity in,
Uh-huh.
and then, but they have to actually make something.
But how are you going to get women to do that?
Well, we're doing it as a engineering design process. this, and I'm having them work on a project that's, they take their favorite game or toy and redesign it for children with disabilities.
Yeah.
To get the more social
Yeah, yeah,
aspect of it.
yeah.
And I know like with women, it's environmental is big. You know, that's like the most, engineering is environmental. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how I can do something similar to get more women in.
Yeah. So,
Together.
yeah. Well, it's like, you know, it is a problem that I haven't solved yet. And I haven't put a lot of work into it because I just need to recruit in general, right? But it's hanging out there. Okay. It is, I'm like way over already. I'm sorry. So this is just the blurb of who's helped us. Jerry Neely from Schneider Electric has been wonderful. Jason Stacy and Christine Irwin, they came and did hours of talking to our students. I don't know how to say his name, Scott Lynch, maybe, from J2 Innovations, set up their introductory training and let our class do it. So we ran on their servers in our classroom. Kristen Hernandez is trying to get us Niagara. You've already got Niagara, you lucky person. Diego has been wonderful. You know, I can't say enough about their help on everything. Our own facilities guys have been very friendly, and we haven't taken full advantage. That's kind of my next step, is take more advantage. And then I've been in ASHRAE, so the Triangle ASHRAE has been a good connection to other companies and other. Jerry is big in that also, so that's one place I got to talk to him a lot. And I'm out of time, but you know, you're supposed to have a quiz at the end. Like, what am I supposed to put in what am I supposed to put in my next grant? And we've had lots of conversation already, so I'm not going to try and do that too much now because I'm already half an hour over. Sorry about that.
Well, we were there.
Okay. But if you know, anybody want to give me some, getting the data in, Mr. Dunlap, right, is one of the possibilities of what I'm thinking might be our next desirable thing to do. But anybody have suggestions for me, please let me know.
You're the PI on the grant?
I didn't want to be the PI, so I said no to being the PI, but in effect, I am the PI, right? I'm the one that does all the.
And how is it working with NSF as a funding source and as a grantor?
Oh, we wouldn't have done much of anything. They gave us so much money for equipment, and the one thing, okay, so just, it's going to sound like a criticism, but it's not a criticism, it's to be aware of. It's like when you get this load, if you're not prepared for it ahead of time, you know, it was a big lot of stuff to do, and we maybe didn't know enough about what we were doing to start into. Andy was great. Andy had 3 years, right? But
sometimes it's better not to know what you don't know.
yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. So
Ignorance is bliss.
yeah. So I would say I'm not sure we made the best use of everything necessarily, right? Because we made a few mistakes along the way, and you know.
But
It's a regret.
The environment is such. What did you say a few minutes ago? There are no textbooks.
Yes.
This field, that's what NSF is there for, to fund innovation, fund BAS. These programs don't exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and you know, we were not none of the people in our program in our school. The facilities guy is BAS. He's running our facilities, right? But otherwise, nobody in our teaching staff has any experience in building automation in industry. We're making it up, right? As we go, kind of. So. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, thank you all for your attention. Yes.
I saw your disc tech controllers that you had.
Uh-huh.
So what we did is, and maybe you have a good mechanical contractor in your area that uses disc tech,
Mhm.
But we were actually able, and we've been, and maybe we're lucky where we are, but we have our mechanical contractors that are willing to come in. And we've got one that uses Distech, and they were able to show us, set us up, get us all the programming and everything with Distech approval. And so now we can actually run Distech through this company, kind of a backdoor thing.
Okay, yeah.
And then we actually, with these contractors, they're actually helping us installing equipment. You know, if we need something installed, you know, they'll send somebody over for half a day and say, hey, we'll help you lay this out and get this installed correctly and those types of things. And we found that to be a amazing resource because most contractors, you know, and the advisory committee too is a big part of it.
Uh-huh.
We've got a really strong advisory committee. And that's part of what they do is I did a thing on HVAC excellence. I did a presentation that's online right now about getting the contractors involved. And I tell you what, once you get contractors involved in the program and your advisory committee, most of them are willing to bend over backwards because they know they're first in line for those students. And it's a huge thing. I mean, it is.
Yeah, that's a problem to me though. Like Jerry Neely, we haven't had that many, but none of our students have gone to Schneider yet. And so it's like, sorry, Siemens took them all. So having something, I can't tell them that they're going to be first in line. But
they understand.
They're hoping they're first.
Because with
Yeah.
them being involved with the college, their names, their faces are there, all of these types of things. So when students are out in the lab and they see this piece of equipment and it's got, Martingale Mechanical on this equipment, I mean, all these things start sticking in students' heads.
Yes.
And that's kind of how we do it.
Yeah.
In that way, so.
That's good to know. That's kind of what we're doing with Niagara. You have to do the same kind of thing to get Niagara also. So that's the first one. We're going to do Niagara first. We've got a whole box full of JASES that our facilities gave us. Anyway, so thank y'all for listening to me.